Welcome back to Our Canada, Our Future. We're talking with Rahim Mohammed at the School of Public Policy at the University of Calgary. Rahim, you were talking before the break about this white supremacist theory of replacement theory. You can see why a lot of politicians would be very reluctant to talk about fertility if those are the only other people talking about it. But setting those theories aside, why is it important that we talk about falling birth rates? What are the consequences for Canadian society if we don't take steps to change things and see fertility rates rise?
So I think it's important to think of it in terms of the rate that birth rates are falling. So across the West, we have this large bulk of baby boomers that are now en masse moving to their retirement years. And throughout the West, that is going to create strains on, social policies, on our social welfare systems, on our pension systems, on our healthcare systems. And if you have a larger pool of younger working age citizens, that's going to take some of the strain off the problem. So it's, population decline, might be a general pattern across developed countries, but it's going to be much more severe, as you said, sort of in countries where you have, two workers for every one retiree, than in countries where you have 5 or 6 workers for every one retiree. So, if you're able to keep the birth rate up to around replacement rate, you're going to find that sort of demographic challenge of sort of the boomer question. You're going to find that question more manageable.
Right. Now, of course, when we talk about population growth, we've only talked about birth rates, but population growth is a function of 2 elements, natural growth, which is birth rates amongst Canadians who are here, and immigration. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the interaction between, lower fertility and pressures on essentially leaning on immigration to make up the difference, and what kind of implications that has for our political debates.
So Canada has been very, very lucky with its immigration rate. And we've been very lucky with the immigrant populations we've been able to attract to Canada. At present, about 2/3 of Canadian immigrants come into Canada through skilled immigration streams. If you look globally, that is astounding. The United States would love to have that ratio. So Canada's been very lucky. We've had a surfeit of immigrants, from places like India, China, Hong Kong, the Philippines, that, can jump right into, some of Canada's most in-demand fields that come to Canada with some level of fluency in either English or France. I don't think that supply of those highly skilled immigrants, where there are very few frictions between those immigrants coming to Canada and entering the labor market at a high level, I don't think that supply is going to last forever. One, countries like China and India are themselves becoming developed and are themselves generating more demand for skilled workers. So if you look at companies like Huawei, companies like Tata, there's becoming more of a domestic demand in developing countries for talent. So a lot of the talent that comes out of those countries are going to find jobs closer to home. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, if we see development throughout the global south and we see, skilled workers throughout the global south, sticking around in the global south instead of becoming part of the brain drain. And secondly, other countries across the West are also aging. And I think the competition for those skilled immigrants, those really kind of high-end immigrants is going to intensify among aging Western societies. So Canada has followed a formula that has worked incredibly well. It's unclear as to whether that formula can be sustained in the future. So I think in sort of all likelihood, there's going to have to be some sort of mixture between measures to increase fertility and our continued more open orientation toward immigrants. It's not an either or.
Interesting. Right. And that's very interesting framing when you put it that way, because it's a bit like the real estate market. Sometimes it's a buyer's market, sometimes it's a seller's market. Right now, Canada's done well. There's a lot of skilled people in other countries that want to come to Canada. Canada's given them a good deal, and it's been a win-win. But as you say, now with other countries who who are also going to be very desperate to have these types of high-skilled immigrants. We really have to up our game and make sure that we're able to still be in an appealing locale for a lot of these people to move to. So fascinating stuff. I want to come back and talk a bit about some international comparisons after this short break.